Okay, I call the Wednesday, May 10th, 2023 meeting of the Trees and Greenery Committee to order. And I probably should go through and everybody introduce themselves, like we did once anyway. Let's start with Pat.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Pat Bagley.
Dennis Sudo.
Deb Shag.
Richard Adams. Peter Lachlan.
Max Wader.
Joanna Kelly.
Michael Griffin.
Peter Rice. Thank you. We have the minutes of the April 19th meeting. Comments, questions, additions, deletions? I guess I'll take that as a move to accept. All in favor? Tree removal request 441 Richards.
Yeah, the homeowner contacted me over at 441 Richards, asking about the state of his ash trees, and they are showing signs of emerald ash borer. So, yeah, that's why they're on the list. Pretty cut and dry at this point, I feel.
Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion to recommend removal?
Well, can I just ask a question? So as we know, these ash trees are under attack. And is what's, so your position at this point is case by case, or are you preempting, or just kind of where we're at?
At this point in time, if they're showing signs, there's little we can do as far as intervention goes. Realistically, if we started doing injectable pesticide applications, the likelihood of those ash trees surviving is much higher. But the fact that they're showing signs now, there's very little at this point we can do. We can inject them, but that all of that cambium damage has already been pretty much done.
Are there other ones that could be identified that could be injected?
At this point in time, I sincerely doubt it, because by the time we actually see the signs, the bugs have been in there for years.
No, I mean, are there other ash trees in our community that could be identified as being savable?
Sure, so
Way?
I guess it's the same answer, I suppose. So if we identify a tree, an ash tree that looks relatively healthy and there aren't any signs of emerald ash borer, there's still a likelihood that they're already in there and causing that damage underneath. So we can certainly look at it in a case by case basis, but currently how we have it set up in our department, we don't have the means inside of our department to take care of it. So it would be then contracting out injectable pesticide applications, but it's very expensive when we do it out of house. So that's something we are looking to do or expand our resources into the future. But at this point, I don't think we are adequately prepared to currently deal with emerald ash borer in our department.
Thank you.
Max, are you seeing any young ash trees infested as well?
Relative, I mean, in comparison to the 3 ash trees at 441 Richards, yes, certainly smaller ash trees are like smaller diameter breast height trees are being affected as well. It just, the larger they are, the more kind of in plain sight they are. I think there are certain, I think over on Austin, there's a relatively younger ash tree that's also showing it really bad. I happened to see it after I posted the agenda. So Austin Street, there's one sort of in front of that new condo building that was put in, has that really nice brick facade out front, right next to there. And then there's another one, is it Madison, I think? There were a couple that I ended up finding really recently. Yeah, it's maybe, is there an ash tree near your house?
Don't talk about it because it could happen.
Anyway, so yes, I mean, I don't think any one particular ash tree of any size or age is safe. It's an ash, yeah, it's not good.
So unlike humans, there's no diagnostic test to know if there is borer present, so you can't prophylactically treat the trees. Yes.
I don't believe so. I think, I mean, everything that I've done in the past is really prevention is key, not necessarily the treatment after it's been found.
Yeah.
Or the fact that it's here across the city and it's pretty much all from Woodbury all the way down to here at Richards. I have a strong suspicion that even if the ash tree isn't showing any signs, it's still all around. Yeah, I guess I think I lost the answer to your, or the question in there.
Well, there's no way to diagnose if the tree, I mean, obviously, if you see it, you know, you can see
Yeah.
signs, but if you don't see signs in an ash tree, there's no testing of. the
Yeah, so we
tree,
can
like-
put in traps, which have pheromones, sticky, so it's like a purple triangle that you put high up in the tree. It's made out of cardboard, so you fold it up, you put pretty much a little packet of pheromones inside the trap with a sticky material on the interior of that trap. We can hang that up in the cambium, but really it's just going to attract the pests to that tree. So say it doesn't
Oh,
actually
yeah.
show any signs to it, but it would give us an indication that they were in this area. So not explicitly this one tree, but
Yeah.
also all the surrounding ash trees.
I get it. Thank you.
That's just from things that I've done in my past, at least as far as emerald ash borer treatment. It's prevention is definitely the strongest tool to use, and there wasn't much in the way done for that.
Maybe, whether you or something from DPW could get with Monty and Communications and write something up, because I've been getting several comments on Facebooks or emails that they feel that residents feel that we're just arbitrarily chopping down a lot of these bigger trees. So I think getting ahead of the communication, letting people know also that this is what you can spot, because I just saw this video, and I wanted to show a video in Atlantic Heights, ice view.
Yeah,
That is infected, that is
that's,
okay.
but the same point, I mean, it's true, like you'll
Yeah.
find woodpecker damage all across. the
So,
country.
just getting information, this was a creative video of a woodpecker on a tree and.
They're very busy right now.
Yeah.
They are very efficient at destroying trees.
Right, but just getting
For sure.
with the communication department and getting some heavy information out to people so that they A, know what to look for in case they have something on their property. And B, they don't think that we are, because I received, decent amount of emails, but a lot of comments obviously on social media. Oh, there goes another tree here, there goes another tree here, and so I've been slowly trying to say, this is what it is, if you have questions, please contact Trees and Greenery Committee. But just getting ahead.
And the other response could be there's 400 trees that just been planted this year,
Right.
so.
And 100 annually.
So it's just a matter of communicating that,
Yeah,
and hopefully with
We-
Monty in place, that.
there is some material on the city's website, it just hasn't been on a banner type thing front center.
Yeah.
But it would be worth having people realize that it's not just willy-nilly.
And we can always hyperlink to the UNH extension office that has
Mm.
an abundance of resources
Yep.
with regard to EAB.
Even the
Identification
urban
tools,
State
Yeah.
forestry folks as well.
yep,
Get on the newsletter.
so that's.
Especially with these 3 big trees coming down on Richards Ave. As
Right.
It's, I guess all the neighbors sort of know this is the top probably around here.
Talk to the town.
It's substantial. Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
So we have a motion, recommend removal on 441 Richards Ave, on favor.
Second. Oh, yeah.
179 Woodbury.
Same story, this is, I think, the biggest ash tree we have in the city right of way. It's very unfortunate, and it was, we had noticed it last year and that it was in a stage of decline, but didn't see any explicit signs yet. And now that we're seeing the blonding, the relative size of the tree, how weak the wood gets, the fact that it's that large, it's just time to go.
Can you approve, take that tree down?
I do not think so. I mean, we could, but it would take us likely a couple of days. And then I think having a crane out there will likely be the safest option, just for the relative size of the tree itself.
And so Max, when you identify that the ash tree is sick, any type of the longevity of the tree thereafter? I mean, when it becomes sort of a limb drop problem, a problem for the public, or
Yeah,
just trying to understand more about it.
my understanding is that the wood gets severely compromised up in the canopy, so it's not like a whole tree failure at the base, it's more like large limbs will start dropping. As they start drying out and their attachment points to the tree, the total tree mass starts becoming weaker. It's just a matter of time before a big limb just rips off because it's just so dried out and just so dead.
We have a motion on 179 Woodbury.
I'll make a motion to remove that.
Joanna seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
216 Woodbury. And
216 Woodbury. We have a representative here today.
could I sit here?
Yes, you can speak into the microphone, just. Yep.
Good morning. I'm Mike Garrity with Garrity Planning Consultants. Peter, great to see you. I am here because we have a project on Woodbury Avenue at 2, I guess it's 216 is the address where the tree is, but we're proposing to develop 4 properties and develop a small residential neighborhood on Woodbury Avenue in Boyd. And there's a tree in the right of way where the DPW would like us to build a sidewalk. So we're proposing to remove a small linden tree. I don't know if you have the packet that we submitted and you can put it up there for folks to see, but it's a tree that's sort of leaning into the roadway a bit. And the intent would be to build the sidewalk and then replace the tree. Our landscape designer had recommended linden tree to replace it, but I understand that may not be the most desirable tree.
Yeah,
to plant.
we don't really like to plant lindens right next to the road, only because they get up nice and wide and shape, so.
So we're
Yeah, we can, yes,
replace it with whatever,
of course.
the city and folks may recommend. Just propose that as our joint right on. So
And then I just want to note too, so I'm sure everyone has seen this tree already, but it does have a significant lean over the road.
it is like,
If we were to not, so let's just argue, oh, thank you, Peter. So if we were, and then it's sort of in the top, yeah. Yeah, see, so yeah, if you bring your cursor up from where it currently is, yep, that tree right there. So if that sidewalk was put in to accommodate that tree, but roots were significantly impacted in combination with that significant lean, it just doesn't make any real sense to keep it. And then the choice of a plane tree underneath power lines is also an interesting choice. So it's not it's certainly a really good urban tolerant tree, but under the power lines and given the circumstances, it just doesn't make much sense to keep it. Even aside from the construction, sure.
And yeah, and the proposed sidewalk will combine with the existing sidewalk and then the grass panel, which is the sidewalk. Right away, so it makes sense to locate the sidewalk where they're requested to be built. And I don't know, I think they submitted a photo of the tree. I don't know if they have that, I don't know. It's,
Yeah.
in my mind, it's not a significant tree. It's not anything like just smoking on the last 2 applications. So it's not a real heartbreaker. I don't think to take this down. And again, we'll replace it with a tree that you folks recommend. We're happy with that.
Anybody have any questions for Michael?
Well, I think when we were out, what a worthy project it is to put a sidewalk there. The traffic was horrendous. It's very dangerous there. The sidewalk from Holiday Inn drops out and then it picks up. So
Sure.
this is worth it. Every tree's worth saving, but this is worthy of a removal because it's just so dangerous. We're getting more and more people walking. So.
We're not losing a tree, but it's a replacing, so.
Gaining a sidewalk.
Gaining a sidewalk.
Yeah, no, no, but you're gonna replace it with something.
We have a motion to recommend removal of 216 Woodbury tree. Joanna?
Second.
Jeff seconds. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Easy enough. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
And this, if I did. Sure.
Michael likes paper.
449 Ocean Road.
These are, Scott joining us.
Good morning, everyone. So Eversource brings to the committee this morning just a couple of things that was on Ocean Road. 449 is the first one, for white ash, but a couple of defects, cavities in it. Something obviously had happened at this location previously, because there was some cover on the primary wire prior to us finding the tree, so I don't know if there was a wind rubbing on the tree and then cut it back to give us the clearance we want, but now the reason City is getting. So we need to vote for approval.
Questions? Go ahead. We have a motion to recommend removal. 449.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion at Patricia.
Yeah, it's the second of our trees. I just happened to notice this one while I was out looking at 49. It's large pine tree, it's got a very severe basal cavity in it. It looks healthy, so you really kind of catch this hole at the bottom of it. Would also like to have that.
Out there 4 by 1 ones right beside it.
There are several right along there. This one kind of had to lean more towards the intersection and road part of it. I think the other couple you probably noticed tend to lean back towards that residence or church community that's right there. I take as many as I can get. I don't like to burden the committee with too many.
We have a motion to recommend removal.
Make that motion.
Michael, Dennis, second, any discussion?
I do, I have
Go
a
ahead.
question. Do we ever, in some of these instances, ask Eversource to replant anything in the place of, I'm sure Eversource has to replant anything where they're asking for removal, but shorter trees or more like urban compact trees, do we ever ask or require
That's a
Eversource?
question.
Yeah, Eversource has, when we do significant cuttings, things like that, Eversource has contributed monies in tree plantings in the past. When they, most recent one I remember was Lafayette School Playground, where we did some heavy pruning in that area. Eversource participated in doing some replacement. That, I can't remember, Scott, if you can remember, maybe Little Harbor, did we end up doing anything on Little Harbor Road?
Not quite that one, but I do remember in previous meetings since I've been in this position, that Eversource did donate a bunch of trees and things, I think for the 400th anniversary, I thought Eversource had contributed something. Yeah, to answer your question, yes.
Okay.
You may ask, Eversource does have this funding available for, extra trees to help out. Obviously, we understand we're taking down a significant amount.
Motion to recommend removal on Ocean Road. Drive. I guess, is that? Michael, Dennis seconded it, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. And I point out that I recommended to Jones and Beach that they not bring in paper and just I, not that maybe I can make an exception for you. They said, if, see, as long as we have all the material, we can send it to everybody. So, okay. Update from our city arborist, Max.
With Arbor Day, that was the last of our 400 trees for the city's 400.
Great
Yeah,
job.
so
So enjoyable.
yeah, thank you everybody who participated in the giveaway at our forestry center at the tree planting and Arbor Day. Yeah, thank you for all the support. It was a lot. We didn't get through completely unscathed. A lot of sore backs on the crew, sore wrists, all that kind of stuff. So I think they're really happy to be back to the regular grind of traditional tree work. So yeah, thanks. Looking forward to next year. I think we're, as it currently, looking at the tree planting forecast, for all the years that I've been here, it was about 100 trees every spring. I think we're increasing that just to kind of keep with this momentum from our 200 tree plantings. And we'll be taking on a couple of bigger projects like the replanting of Panaway, in addition to planting the skate park next spring. So we're really looking forward. That's a really cool project. We get to select all these trees and really get in there and do some design based around that park. So that'll be really cool. And then we'll try and accommodate the 100 trees across the city in addition to those two projects.
Great, thank you.
Just driving around town and seeing all the new trees.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And the ones on Islington Street are just really leafing out.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a joy to see that, because it was only like 3 or 4 years ago,
Not even that.
right?
Was it two?
The closest, the last, no, the phase done last year, It's,
Yeah, so
and so
trees
you're
grow.
gonna continue, probably won't be 401 trees next year.
No. And it'll, in my opinion, well, I'm hoping that it'll be more than 100, just again, to facilitate those couple of projects that planting all across the city too. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I would really like to do that, and I think the crew is on board, so it's some good positive momentum.
Like you said, the street park really has a full mechanism.
It's like a blank canvas. It's really exciting. So.
And again, I want to thank Peter for, and his DPW department for really leaning in on trees and
Well,
supporting trees and.
I have to give credit where credit is due. It's really the council that supports these programs. So, I mean, it's something that the past councils have been supportive of, and continued funding is what is necessary to be able to continue these programs. So, we do work that we're directed to do to a certain extent. Some things are more enjoyable than other things.
Well, you can embrace this one.
Who do I have to talk to keep that funding coming in, right? So.
You're speaking to the right people at the moment. Continue to do good service. That's what we gotta do.
Those Dawn redwoods in front of Plaza 800.
In front of where?
Plaza 800.
We can pay.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I remember seeing those go in and hoping that they found the root layer and they were filling those. Do they have water bags or gator
I
bags?
don't even think we didn't plant those.
No, we didn't plant those. No, I remember seeing them go in, just realizing, most contractors, yeah, and then they just, not to besmirch anybody, but we support our tree plantings very well. We give them that 2-year establishment period where we're watering and mulching and weeding and doing all these things, and you happen upon a tree that was planted by a contractor who's abandoned the tree, for lack of a better term. So we really do good work and continue that establishment period, and that we have really good results from that. So.
I thought we had also, there's a mechanism that we have been sort of working with developers and helping them make good selections and helping them
So
more
yeah,
responsible.
and I interface with a lot of those like whoever is contracted to plant. I'll go out there and monitor how they're planting, but then the follow-up, the 2-year establishment that we provide, I don't believe that there's anything like that on their end. And they'll say, we'll put water bags on it, but then I personally never see them being filled up. I'm sure they do get filled up every once in a while, but it's not at the same, yeah, exactly. So. How it is.
It's a nice letter.
Yeah.
From the Trees and Greenery.
I think that's. We're just noticing.
Yeah.
These trees seem that they aren't thriving as well as they could be. As a reminder, this is the steps you should do in the first few years. Any questions? Here, help them.
Well, if prevailed upon Dick Adams to talk about the history of some of Portsmouth's oldest parks. Dick has spent a lifetime studying these and studying all of those parks, so I'm anxious to hear.
All right, thank you, Peter. By my count, there are about 26 parks in Portsmouth, ranging in size from 7.5 Prospect Park to a little pocket park across from the Thomas Bailey Aldrich House. I thought I'd just talk about the 4 larger parks in Portsmouth to start with. And by the way, each of these has to me very fascinating human interest associations. I'll try to make reference to that, but it may be of more interest to me than the rest of you. So if need be, give me the look. Go on too long. The oldest park and the first one in Portsmouth was Langdon Park, which is across the street. Some people refer to it as Veterans Park because there's a POW one I don't think that's an official name at all. It's Langdon. And Langdon Park was created out of land given to the city by John Langdon Elman, I'm sorry, who was the great patriot John Langdon's grandson. The original plan was to name the park Elman Park, but Elman's mother wanted it to be named after her father, John Langdon. And Elman had no objection to that. So that's the correct name of the park. It was created in 1876. And it was dedicated in May of 147 years ago. The original plan was to the trustees of the site expected or sought a donation of 100 trees. And in fact, 600 were donated by people from far away. Well, the Berwicks, but some even farther away arranged to have a tree planted. Some of the early trees were ones that we don't see today in there. Cottonwood, for example, palm, Gilead, Kentucky coffee tree, so on and so forth. Until about 10 years ago, I think there were some original trees there. There was a couple of red oaks, the corner of Lincoln and Junkins. In one case, I recall counting the rings, and they seem to correspond with the founding date of the park. There was a big festivity at the park dedication. There, a 96-year-old woman planted by herself a white birch she donated. And the park was initially not as accessible as it is now because the causeway across the mill pond didn't exist. It was installed in 1894. And I should note that the original plan for the land was to build an almshouse there. Big building for the poor. And fortunately, that was torpedoed, and the almshouse was actually built over in the area of New Franklin, what's now New Franklin School. All right, the next one I'll talk about is Haven Park, which is down there at the end of Junkins. It came about through what I regard as kind of an odd stipulation in the will of Reverend Samuel Haven, who wished that when the last of his descendants had died, that the house be torn down. And it stood more or less at the corner of what is now Edward Street and Pleasant. It was a large house. It needed to be large because Haven had 17 children. And he was both a minister and a physician and an ardent patriot. And during the Revolutionary War, he mined earth, which somehow he converted to saltpeter. And years ago, I remember it was a common belief in the military that soldiers were given saltpeter as an effort to surreptitiously, not to their knowledge, but to curb their libido. And apparently it didn't work with Haven because his first wife gave him 11 children and then presumably died of exhaustion. And the next one, 6 children, and she too died. 14. The statue in the park is of Civil War figure of substantial interest. Fitzjohn Porter And Porter happened to have been born in the White House across Livermore Street. His father was assistant commandant of the Navy Yard in 1822 when he was born. Porter was vilified of the Union defeat at Second Bull Run. And it's generally now recognized that the defeat was the result of the thorough ineptitude of the Union general named John Pope. But Pope had strong political connections, including with Abraham Lincoln. And so Porter was cashiered, which is the officer equivalent of court martial, and dismissed from the army. He spent the next 25 years trying to clear his name and finally did so. And a cousin of his named Robert Eddy from Boston, who was wealthy, wanted to install a monument for and the original plan was to put the monument in Haymarket Square. But the residents in that area took offense at that, saying they didn't want to look at the hind end of the horse, which I thought was kind of bizarre, in that in those days, that's what people saw. Automobiles would take them around. So anyway, the statue was created by a sculptor in New York named James Kelly and installed in 1906. The park originally apparently was a site of a lot of disruptive behavior. One woman wrote to the newspaper and said she found the shouting and singing and going on at all hours of the night intolerable, and she said it's not bearable to people of weak nerves. All right, that takes care of Haven Park. The next one would be Goodwin over on between Islington and Court Street. It's an acre and a half, I think, yeah, acre and a half in size. The land came from a man named Ichabod Goodwin, who ended up as governor of New Hampshire. And one thing I found interesting in my research is that young people, particularly boys, seem to mature a lot earlier than they do now, but I don't mean physically, but emotionally. So it's very common for them to, for example, locally, to go to sea at an early age. And Goodwin was a farm away from North Berwick, but he went to sea when he was 12. Became a ship captain before he was 21. And the same applied to Daniel Marcy, from Marcy Street is named. Admiral Farragut, of course, was not from Portsmouth, but he went to sea at the age of 9. It's quite a remarkable distinction now. And now we have young men often into their 30s continue to reside in their mother's basement. All right, Goodwin Park was dedicated in 1886. Goodwin's house was directly across the street. It's since been moved to Strawberry Bank. He died in 1884, so he didn't see the creation of the park, but his heirs sold it to the city for a nominal fee. And in 1886, the monument that's currently there was installed with great festivities. And the account of the dedication was quite impressive. Okay, the next and last one I'll talk about is Prescott Park. That's the largest of the city's parks, as far as I know, 7.5 acres. And it came about in an interesting way. There were 2 spinster sisters, that's correct, not politically correct word to use these days. But anyway, they were school teachers, never married. And their brother had gone to Erie, Pennsylvania. He was originally from Portsmouth and done very well out there. His will, when he died, he was in the hospital in Erie. His will seems to have been tampered with. So the sisters, he was worth $3 million at that time, which was a lot of money. His sisters hired a man named Charles Dale to contest the will, and he prevailed. He walked off, as often do, with a third of the $1 million. But with that money, the sisters set about trying to clean up the area which was then known as Water Street. Since the name has been changed to Marcy Street. And that process took a long time. But it resulted in what we now have as a gorgeous park. And I asked Peter before the start of the meeting how the park is maintained and so on. He can tell you a lot better than I, but apparently about half the maintenance fees or charges are paid for by the Prescott Systems Trust. So I think that's taking off your time. Any questions?
Which US president okayed the pardon order?
You know, I've known that. You know the answer?
I was hoping. No, because he part of his different presidential approval to get that pardon.
Right.
Was it Grover Cleveland that headed out for him?
Yeah, I don't know why I said Hayes, because I believe there were 7 different administrations in the course of that effort to clear his name. And I think it probably was. One of the big reasons that he was exonerated was that Ulysses Grant, who initially favored his being cashiered out of the army because he was given misinformation as to what went on a second Bull Run. Grant reread the transcript shortly before his death and changed his mind altogether.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to invite Dick to come back every month.
Take a park at a time, like so many tidbits.
I would be interested if you have that, you have notes written down in a format that we could post. It'd
Yeah.
be nice to have that posted on the city's website, the parks.
Dick has a tiny index card with all of it in his head. This is
Transcribe it.
very, very much.
She's going to discover I couldn't read him.
I think it's also interesting to know that only two of those big parks obviously are dog friendly. And 2 in Goodwin and Haven are 2 of our off the leash areas. And so you can go to Haven pretty much any day in the summer, and there's dogs running up and down the hill, and it's again, I think really, same with Goodwin. It's kind of nice because they're not fenced or enclosed because of the design of them. They feel, it's really safe. Nice.
Did the original park go from the Mill Pond to South Street?
Yes, it did. Lincoln didn't exist.
Any other questions? Well, thank you again.
Thanks, that's wonderful.
I'm in awe of your knowledge.
Yeah.
Let's just, I don't think we came close to getting.
Grover,
Frankly,
Grover Cleveland, you're right. It's Cleveland.
Thank you.
do we have any old business?
Thank you for that letter crafted to the resident family so quickly. Peter, and so well done, thank you. Nice, appreciate the representative.
Any new business?
Ask a quick question. In the South Cemetery, you buying organic tea?
Compost tea? Yes. We haven't brewed any this year. Are you saying like?
Well, it's a
in-
sign. On the lot.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
It's probably just a leftover from last year's.
So they would have sprayed the whole footprint.
I'm not sure. I would have to look into that, honestly. We haven't brewed any this year, so if is it a metal sign with a print on it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely a holdover from either last year or the year prior. We haven't brewed it.
Anything else? We have a sidewalk scheduled for the Hall Cemetery on this map that's up there, plan of it. And I think I can bring us up to date on how, when the surveying was done, Max.
Was that in, I believe it was in March. We've had the results for a little bit of time, just recently coordinating this sidewalk. Only happened recently. I believe it was March, middle of March, and then we got the results maybe a month later, give or take.
Yeah, I mean, and then they were certified, reviewed, in the last few weeks, so it wasn't. Since it was between the last greenery and now.
And when we go out, we're going to, are the trees marked yet, or
Nothing has been marked, so we're just
just gonna show us with the outline of what,
and Sue Sterry is here, I assume, she will be joining us and you'll be able to elaborate on the scope of the project and what she's hoping to see happen. And obviously, let's see, everything discussed there, we will sort of come back at the next Trees and Greenery Committee meeting and discuss any potential amendments at that point in time.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to acknowledge that Peter Hood is here, and I don't know if she wants to speak to this at this point, or.
Man.
Please have.
To a South Street. I just want to let you know and not set any expectations of getting back in there because everything's green now and all of this stuff is pushed out a lot more. So I guess the only other expectation I would like to set is that my understanding was the trees would be marked before this committee came out. So we wouldn't have to do another marking. So today, as we walk through there, I'm hoping that we'll have advice on which ones will be taken and that will be.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna be, that's gone. Come back next month. We'll actually hash out all those will be marked for next month's meeting, and those will be discussed. And obviously, we'll talk about that while we're out today and just get it, again, just reiterating, but we'll talk with Sue, we'll talk about the project, how we can go about maybe limiting the removals, which ones should or should not go. So,
Awesome. The only other comment I'd like to make, and I hope this isn't gonna be the case, is we did not receive a butters notice, and the chair had asked me if I did. The only comment on that is, since there is no fence there or anything, the neighbors' dogs, if they are out, you've had a problem with it, could be an issue. And I just want to make sure everybody is aware, because he's, if we didn't get a notice that he's not aware enough. So
Thank you.
I just wanted to let you know. I have one other question on the plantings of the trees. Are those dwarf trees?
which
The
trees?
trees that for the 400, I do a lot of walking around town and a lot of them are in the space between the sidewalk and the road, but they're directly under the wires. So I was wondering if we're setting ourselves up for more, later on.
Nope, so any tree planted underneath the power line, we plant trees that are, that mature around 20 to 25 feet tall. And that they're multi-stem typically, so that if a utility company did have to come in and prune anything off, it's not gonna ultimately destroy the tree or give it a weird compromised canopy, so. we've got-
They're not as careful as you.
I get
That's fine.
it. Yep, and everything that we've, so there's a great installation over at the Urban Forestry Center where they have kind of like a mock pole and utility line set up. A lot of those trees that we are purchasing are also on display over there, and they've been planted for, I don't even remember or even know how long that installation's been there, but I believe those trees are all at pretty much the full mature size. And we've taken a lot of those species and used them for our plantings underneath power lines explicitly.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Public Service was here, maybe it was Scott gave us that poster with 30 under 30.
30 under 30.
trees.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, I found out some information last night I'd like to share.
Sure, please.
Sit there.
Yesterday I did a tour for at Point of Grace Cemetery for History Underwater, which was a 2-day conference to discuss, you know, how do we save places like Strawberry Bank and graves and whatever. And it was international, and there were, I had about 55 people that showed up. There were a lot more at the conferences, and they had gone the day before to Strawberry Bank to find out what they were doing or what their plans were for the future for sea level rise. But during that, afterwards, a gentleman came up to me from the tribal, oh, sorry, I want to get this right because I was really excited. He, his name is Oliver Burnett, his PhD and technical reviewer, but he works for the federal, state, tribal, local plans and grants department of the National Park Service. And because we're going to become a CLG, he last night after I spoke to him, he actually emailed me some grants that we may be eligible for. But the other part of that is because we are Portsmouth Downtown Historic District certified by the National Park Service and the National Registry of Historic Places registration. And that's why I want to make sure I get them right. Paul Cemetery, along with Pleasant and Point of Grave, are already listed on the National Registry, which then falls under the Historic District Committee, which, you know, whatever we end up deciding, or this committee decides, we're still gonna have to go before the Historic District Committee to, you know, see how we work out this whole plan, but
I'm sorry, so you're saying that the HDC has purview over,
not you guys, no, but they're part of the
Got it.
process of what we can do in the cemetery or not do in the cemetery.
okay, I would need to
No,
confirm that with the ordinance, the way the HDC ordinance is written.
Right.
I would be
The-
surprised if they have that jurisdiction.
Well,
Maybe,
I
maybe, maybe,
clarify it.
maybe state DHR, state historic resources may have to. But I'm not sure if the city's HDC, we'll have to confirm.
Well, that's what I mean, I
I think she's talking about the designation, all of downtown Portsmouth is in.
Right, the national designation,
I don't think
because
it's our historic district, but it.
it's
not-
the national.
I don't even know, I don't know how it affects day-to-day things, but
Right.
that's what you're talking
So,
about.
right, and so I'm gonna have a meeting with Nick Cracknell to figure out, because, right, if we have 2 little things to get certified, and that's in Nick's preview too for the certified local government. But I thought it was really interesting just by mentioning something the city is doing to become certified historically, you know, people approached us. So I'm really excited about the fact that nationally that we're being recognized for all the hard work we do for all of our things here in town. So, but anyway, yes, I just wanted to let you know.
Very cool.
Thank you, that's good news.
It is,
Hard work, good news.
opens the door.
Okay, so we'll adjourn to
The cemetery.
cemetery, but we're gonna,
So remind me where that cemetery is. I had trouble
Next to Peter's house.
You can see it up there.
In front of 280 South, is that the best?
It's between 280 and 272.
Okay.
So, did you recall the old Christmas tree farm?
I mean.
You remember the Christmas tree farm that was back in the? I used to sell Christmas trees out of his garage. Like across the street from the coffee shop,
Yeah, right there.
diagonal.
And that's the point, so if other people can find it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's hard. All right,
Let's try, we'll stop the recording.